She was walking home from a night shift. A rainy Seoul street. Ordinary. Then a body hit the road in front of 3 black cars. The men who climbed out were not the kind of men you walk toward. She walked toward them anyway. She dropped to her knees in the rain beside a stranger. Nobody stopped her. Not even the man at the center of everything, not even the one whose presence made his own men go quiet. He watched her work. He let her. But before the woman on the ground lost consciousness, she said something. Something urgent. A dialect so thick that nobody in that circle understood a single word. The nurse understood every word. The Mafia boss asked what she had heard. She looked him in the eye. And she lied. She had nothing to gain. She had never seen any of these people before tonight. So why did she protect a stranger's secret from him? If you're new here, welcome. This channel is where stories like this live. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss one. Now, let's go back to that rainy Seoul street. The rain came down steady and without apology. Not dramatic, not gentle. Just rain doing its job on a Tuesday night in October, the kind that makes the city lights smear across every wet surface until Seoul looks like a painting someone left out in the weather. Zara Mensah had her collar up and her head down, and 13 hours of a shift behind her. Her bag was pressed to her side. Her feet knew the way home. She wasn't thinking about anything. Not really. Just the distance between where she was and where she needed to be. She almost didn't look up. The sound is what did it. 3 large vehicles moving in tight formation. Expensive. Quiet. The particular hush of engines tuned to say nothing. Her brain registered it before she did. Some part of her that had worked emergency rooms long enough to read a room before she entered it. That part made her look up. She looked up. And a woman's body went over the hood of the middle car and hit the road. Zara was running before the sound had fully reached her. She crossed the street fast. The convoy had stopped. All 3 vehicles. Doors opened and men poured out. 6, 7. All of them in dark suits. All of them moving to form a circle around the woman on the ground. Big men. Men who stood the way men stand when they are the most dangerous thing in the room, and they know it. She didn't slow down. She pushed through the gap between 2 of them before anyone had time to think. She dropped to her knees on the wet road and got to work. The woman was in her mid-40s. Korean. Conscious, her eyes were open and moving, but her breathing was wrong. Shallow. Too fast. Zara pressed 2 fingers to her neck. Pulse. There, but running scared. She ran her hand along the woman's ribcage, a sharp flinch. A sharp intake of breath. Broken ribs. She tilted the woman's head and watched her chest rise. The breath caught on one side. Possible lung collapse. Internal. Bleeding. Broken leg. Definitely. She had 20 minutes to get this woman into surgery or the conversation would change. One of the suited men grabbed her arm. Hard. Like he expected her to come up off the ground the way something light does. She didn't move. She didn't look up either. "Touch me again," she said, in a voice that had no anger in it at all, "and I will make sure you need a nurse too." The man went still. Someone spoke behind her. One word, quiet and absolute. Like a key turning in a lock. The man let go. Zara kept working. She stripped off her jacket, folded it into a pressure pad and pressed it against the woman's left side. She looked up just long enough to say, "I need an ambulance. Now." A phone appeared over her shoulder, flashlight blazing. She used it without thanking whoever held it. The woman on the ground was looking at her. Not around at the men. Not at the sky. At her. The way someone looks when they have decided. In the middle of all the chaos and pain and rain, that this is the person. The only one. Then she spoke. Korean. But not the Korean of this part of the city. What came out of her mouth was thick and coastal and heavy, Busan dialect, fishing district, the kind that soul-born ears need a moment to decode. 5 sentences. Fast. Urgent. the voice of someone who wasn't sure they would get another chance. Every man in that circle heard it. Not one of them understood a single word. Zara understood every word. She kept her face completely still. She leaned down slowly like she was checking the woman's airway. She tilted her ear close. "I hear you," she said quietly, in the same dialect. Clean. Exact. Like she had grown up in the same streets. "I understand." Something in the woman's eyes released. Her grip on Zara's wrist, which Zara only now noticed, loosened. Her eyes closed. The ambulance arrived 3 minutes later. Zara gave the handover fast and precise. Airway stable. Suspected. Pneumothorax left side. Fractured ribs. Fractured left tibia. Possible internal bleeding. She needs a surgeon, not a ward nurse. She climbed in. In the last second before the doors closed, she looked back. One man had not moved. He stood slightly apart from the others, at the center of the circle they'd made around the accident. In a dark coat the rain was making darker. He wasn't looking at the ambulance. He was looking at her. He was perhaps 35. His face was still in a way that wasn't natural. It was trained stillness. The kind built over years by someone who decided a long time ago that their face would give nothing away without permission. High cheekbones. A jaw like a line drawn with a ruler. Eyes that held the particular intelligence of someone who has already assessed you before you've said your first word. The ambulance doors closed. Zara sat down beside the stretcher and put her hand on the woman's wrist and felt the pulse. Still there. Still fighting. And she looked at the closed metal doors and did not think about him. She told herself she did not think about him. Seoul General's trauma ward at 11 at night is its own universe. The lights are always the same brutal white. The sounds never change. Monitors, wheels on linoleum, someone behind a curtain who needs help. Staff moving fast without running, because running means something has gone past the point of being stopped. Zara handed the woman's chart to the surgical team and stood in the doorway and watched until they told her, gently but firmly, that they had it. She went to write her notes. She was halfway through when the night nurse appeared at the door with an expression Zara recognized immediately. The expression of someone about to deliver information they would rather not deliver. "There are men in the waiting room," the nurse said. Zara put her pen down. "How many?" "6, and one who didn't sit." She went. He was standing near the window at the far end of the waiting room. The 6 others were arranged in the chairs like men pretending to wait, occupying the space without relaxing into it. Every other person who had been in that room was gone. Zara didn't wonder why. He turned when she came in. He didn't come toward her. "I need to see the patient," he said. "She's in surgery," Zara said. "You can wait." She is in surgery." Same tone, same volume. The voice she used when a situation needed to understand that she would say a thing exactly once more. "You can wait." He looked at her for a long moment. She looked back. The waiting room was very quiet. Then he sat down. It was, in her experience, the most remarkable thing she had seen anyone do. Not because sitting was hard, because this was a man who had not sat when someone told him to in a very long time. Every line of him said so, and he did it anyway. She went back inside. 3 hours and 20 minutes later she returned. "She survived surgery. She's stable. She won't be conscious until morning." She turned to go. "What did she say?" His voice came from behind her. Even. Careful. The question of a man who already suspected the answer and wanted to see what she would do with the gap between them. Zara stopped, turned back. She said she was cold, and that she wanted her mother. She went back inside. He knew she was lying. She could see it in the quality of his stillness. The way someone goes quiet when they've just had something confirmed that they suspected. But she had given him nothing to grip. And something about the absolute steadiness of her lie, no hesitation, no flicker, made him look at the closed door for a long moment before he looked away. He stayed in that waiting room until morning. She checked twice. Here is what she did not know about men like him. The more carefully they move, the more certain they already are. He kept coming back. His name, the hospital discovered through a difficult series of phone calls, was Kang Ji-hoon. His men were polite to staff. They said please and thank you. They were also unmistakably the kind of people who made a room feel smaller just by standing in it. Ji-hoon came quietly. He sat with the woman. Park Soo-ah, her chart said, when she was conscious enough for visitors. He brought fruit, the expensive kind, wrapped in individual tissue paper. He sat in the chair beside her bed and didn't touch his phone. He listened when she spoke. He was, in a contained and careful way, attentive. The ward nurses drew their own conclusions. They were wrong. Every time Zara moved through the ward, checking charts, talking to colleagues, coming or going, Ji-hoon paused. One beat, almost invisible. His sentence would stop mid-word, or his head would turn a fraction, or his hand would still. A person not looking for it would miss it entirely. Soo-ah was looking for it. The third time it happened, she looked down at her blanket. She let a small smile live on her face for exactly 1 second. Then she put it away. On the second morning, Soo-ah's eyes were clear. She moved carefully. The ribs made everything slow. But her mind was sharp and present, and she had been waiting. Zara came in for the morning check and pulled the curtain closed. You understood me, Soo-ah said, in Busan dialect, not a question. I did, Zara said. You're from Busan? 3 years, medical exchange, the fishing district clinic near Choryang. Soo-ah looked at her. Something moved behind her eyes. The rapid calculation of a woman deciding how far to trust someone and deciding fast. Then you know what I said. I know. Tell him. Quiet. Absolute. Not a request. Kang Ji-hoon. Tell him it was Oh Sejun. His driver, Lim. Oh has his daughter. Lim's been feeding information for 3 months. Ji-hoon thinks the accident was random. She paused to breathe through the pain. It wasn't. It was 2 years of planning. And Ji-hoon doesn't know the war has already started. Zara looked at her patient. Why me? She said. Because you stayed, Soo-ah said simply. In the rain. For a stranger. Nobody does that. She had no answer for that. She finished the check. She updated the chart. She was almost at the curtain when she heard it. The sound of the main doors at the end of the corridor opening the way doors open when more than one person comes through them at the same time with purpose. 3 men. 2 in uniform. 1 in a gray suit that was too expensive for what it was meant to suggest. He had a face that had decided, long ago, it had no reason to be pleasant. His eyes were scanning the ward before his body had finished entering it. He saw Zara and walked toward her like he had been given a description. Detective Kwon Tae-young, I need the nurse who attended the accident victim. You're looking at her, Zara said. He studied her for 1 second. Then he smiled. Briefly gone. Is there somewhere we can speak privately? Her office was small. A desk, 2 chairs, a window onto the service road. A stack of patient files held down by a coffee mug. She sat behind her desk. He sat across from it and placed a photograph between them. Ji-hoon, rain, accident scene. I need your statement, Kwon said, specifically what the victim said at the scene. She said she was cold, and that she wanted her mother. We both know that's not all she said. That's my statement. Kwon leaned forward. He had a technique, closing the space between himself and other people deliberately, making the air in a room tighter just by moving through it. Be careful, Ms. Mensah. He said her name the way someone says a name when they want you to know they found it easily, that finding it costs them nothing. Seoul can be dangerous for people who don't know when to stay out of things. He left. Zara sat alone. Outside the window, a supply truck was reversing. A cat was sitting on the side wall in the rain as if the rain didn't apply to it. She made one error in that moment. It was small. It was irreversible. She picked up her phone and called Ji-hoon. He came alone. No men. He arrived in an ordinary car and walked in through the main entrance and found her in the hospital garden, a small rectangle of benches and bare flower beds cut into the building's interior courtyard. Open sky above, building walls on all four sides. Her choice. Her space. He stood across from her. His hands went into his coat pockets. He said nothing. He waited. She told him everything. Oh, Sejun. His driver, Lim, and the daughter held over him like a blade. 2 years of construction. A plan designed not to destroy Ji-hoon through violence but through criminal conviction. The accident wasn't an accident. Soo-ah had been found. She had been used as the instrument in a frame, and everything in that frame pointed at Ji-hoon. She said it in the right order. No editorializing. Just facts, and sequence, and source. He listened without moving. His face gave her nothing. But she was close enough, and she had spent 11 years learning to read bodies under stress. She saw what happened behind his eyes. Pieces clicking into place. Something recalculating. Something that might have been grief, controlled in less than a second. "Why are you telling me this?" he said. "Because a corrupt detective threatened me in my own office an hour ago, which means I'm already in it. And because she asked me to. I don't break promises to patients." "She's not just a patient." "To me she is," Zara said. "Everything gets the same standard of care. That's not policy. That's who I am." He looked at her. "Detective Kwan won't threaten you again. I don't need you to handle my problems." "I know," he said. "But he threatened you because of me. That makes it mine." She wanted to disagree. She turned it over. Found that what he'd said was structurally accurate even if she didn't, like the shape of it. She said nothing. A pigeon landed on the far bench, looked at them both with serious eyes, and left. This was the first thread. Neither of them said so. 2 days ago he would not have crossed the room for her. Now he couldn't stop finding reasons to be in the same building. The next morning he visited Soo-ah. He brought fruit wrapped in tissue paper. He sat in the chair beside her bed and talked. Soo-ah laughed at something he said. Genuinely, surprised out of herself. She held her ribs because laughing hurt. It was a warm scene. An easy one. Then Zara walked through the ward and Ji-hoon stopped mid-sentence. Soo-ah noticed the exact moment it happened. She looked down at her blanket. She said nothing. But she smiled. 4 days later, Zara finished a night shift at 2 a.m. and walked to her car. The parking garage was the kind of lonely that belongs to places built for crowds and found empty. Fluorescent lights buzzing over bare concrete. The distant sound of the city filtered through thick walls, her footsteps making more noise than they should. She heard them too late. 2 men, moving fast and quiet. The one on her left had his hands positioned to grab, not to strike. The one on her right was angling to cut off her exit. Professional, coordinated. They wanted her upright and moving. She had 1 second to understand this. Then someone arrived from her right so fast she barely tracked it. The man on her left went sideways into a parked car and didn't get up. The sound of it was sudden and final. The man on her right turned to deal with the new threat and was halfway through his turn when his arm was corrected at the elbow in a direction it was not designed to go. He ran, half running, making sounds. The man standing where the 2 attackers had been was compact and unremarkable. He looked at Zara once, checking for injury the way a professional checks, top to bottom, fast. Then he stepped back to the nearest wall and stood there, waiting. Still. She stood in the buzzing light of the garage with her bag on her shoulder and her heart hitting harder than usual, and the particular clarity that comes when adrenaline arrives all at once. Ji-hoon's car appeared at the garage entrance 4 minutes later. He was out before it fully stopped. He came toward her and his eyes moved over her, face, hands, posture, in a scan so quick she almost missed it. "Are you hurt?" "No." She looked at the man against the wall. You had someone watching me. Yes. Without asking. Yes. She should have been angry. She knew she should be angry. She was standing in a parking garage at 2 in the morning looking at a man she'd never met who had just broken someone's arm to protect her, and across from the person who'd arranged it without telling her. Next time, ask, she said. Next time, there won't be a next time, he said. She walked toward the car. She didn't argue when he opened the front door. The safe house was an apartment in Mapo, 14th floor, anonymous building, completely neutral inside. Bare walls, good locks, a kitchen that smelled like it had never been cooked in. There was a kettle, tea. The city glowed through the window, all its lights smearing in the rain. Zara changed into spare scrubs from her bag. Ji-hoon had his coat off. Without it, he looked like a person rather than a force, which she found, unexpectedly, clarifying. She made tea. The kettle was loud in the quiet kitchen. She set a cup in front of him and sat across the table. He drank. How long has your driver been compromised? She said. 3 months, based on what you told me. He was quiet for a moment. He was with me for 6 years. Does that make it worse? It makes it complicated. He isn't a traitor. He's a father. Someone found the thing he would do anything for and they used it. He looked at his cup. I understand leverage. I've used it. I know what it feels like on both sides. She looked at him. She didn't push. She filed it away alongside the look on his face in the garden when she told him about Lim. Do you ever get tired of it? She said. He looked up. Of what? All of it. The weight. The decisions. The men who depend on you. The structure of the whole thing holding its shape because you're holding it. She looked at her cup. Do you ever just get tired? He was quiet for a long time. Rain tapped the window. Somewhere a bus went past. I don't think about it that way, he said. That's not an answer. He looked at her. Something moved across his face. Small, contained, gone almost before it arrived. Yes, he said quietly. Sometimes. His hand was on the table, 4 inches from hers. She saw the small shift in his shoulder, the micro movement of someone who has considered reaching and chosen not to. He didn't reach. She kept her hand where it was. They sat in the quiet kitchen until the tea was gone and the rain was still going and the city went on outside without them, bright and unconcerned. In the morning she gave him the drive. She placed it on the table between them. He looked at it. He looked at her. He connected it to a small device from his coat pocket, and he read what was on it, and his hands went still. You knew what was on this before you gave it to me, he said. I suspected. This contains 6 years of my organization's financial records. Yes? This could destroy everything I've built. Sua built it to destroy everything everyone built, yours included. She was going to hand it to an international financial crimes unit and disappear. She stood. She changed her strategy. She decided you deserved the choice instead. Something shifted in him. She felt it before she saw it. The warmth of the kitchen pulled back. The professional distance came up fast and clean, like a blind drawn across a window. He was the chairman again, not the man from the kitchen floor, Eddie. 3 in the morning. I'll have men take you back, he said. I can manage. I know. But I'll have them take you. She was at the door when she stopped. Ji-hoon. He looked up. She trusted you with the thing that could destroy you, Zara said. People only do that when they believe, somewhere underneath everything, that you're worth trusting. She left. That afternoon, Sua called Zara into her room on the pretense of needing her pillow adjusted. Once the pillow was adjusted and Zara was almost at the door, Sua said, He looks at you like you're the only fixed point in a room full of moving things. Zara turned. He barely looks at me. Exactly. Sua arranged her hands on her blanket with the satisfaction of someone who has just placed the last piece. He's working very hard not to. Zara thought about saying something sensible. She thought about the man who ran a criminal organization and the nurse from Accra who had built a clean life in Seoul and the extremely clear reasons that what Sua was suggesting was not something she was going to think about. She said none of this. Rest, she said, and closed the door. Ji-hoon found Sergeant Lim in the hospital car park the next morning, alone. When Lim saw Ji-hoon coming, his face did something that faces do when a man has been carrying something too heavy for too long. Not fear, when he saw who it was, but relief. The exhausted relief of a weight about to be set down. Lim told him everything. Oh Sejun had come to him 3 months ago. He had Lim's daughter, 17 years old, taken from her walk home. No violence, but the photographs were proof enough. Feed us information or she disappears. Lim had fed them. Location data, schedules, Ji-hoon's contacts, and on the night of the accident, he had positioned the car exactly where Sua would be walking, following coordinates sent an hour before. He had hated every moment of it, and because he was not without intelligence or courage, he had been building something at the same time. Small inconsistencies in what he reported to O's people. Times that didn't quite line up. Details that contradicted each other by exactly enough to be found by someone looking closely. A trail, built from inside the trap, pointing back out. He pressed a slip of paper into Ji-hoon's hand. His palm was shaking. Hospital locker, he said. Lower level. 8 weeks of what I sent them, with original timestamps. Proof of every instruction they gave me and when. Ji-hoon looked at the paper. He looked at Lim. You should have come to me, he said. I was afraid. Lim's voice cracked on the word. He clenched his jaw. I know. Where is she now? They moved her. I don't know. I stopped getting proof of life 2 weeks ago. Ji-hoon was quiet for a moment. Go inside, he said. Stay with the staff. Don't leave the building. He went to get the locker. He didn't reach it in time. Zara was at the nurse's station when the air in the ward changed. She felt it before she could name it. The way sound goes slightly wrong, the way a room's pressure shifts just before something happens. 11 years of emergency medicine had built something in her that read environments the way other people read faces. She looked down the corridor. 4 men, plain clothes, moving with the controlled speed of people who had a destination and intended to reach it quietly. They weren't looking at nurses. They weren't looking at other patients. They were reading room numbers. Sua's room was at the end. Zara had 40 seconds. Maybe. She didn't call for help. No time. Wrong direction. She went directly to Sua's room and she did something that took people, hearing the story later, a moment to believe. She moved everything. Wheels unlocked on the bed. Monitors that could be disconnected were disconnected. The ones that couldn't were hung on the bed frame. She pushed the bed out of the room with one arm, turned, left into the corridor and went for the supply entrance at the far end, the one that staff used for equipment movement. Invisible if you didn't know where it was. She kicked it open, backed the bed through, pulled the door shut behind her. Complete darkness. She stood beside the bed in the dark and did not breathe. Sua was awake. She gripped the bed rail. She watched Zara's face in the dark and she was completely quiet. From the other side of the door, footsteps, the room, the door opening. Then silence that had a specific quality. The silence of men finding a room empty when they expected it to be full. Then they searched. She could hear it through the walls. Doors. Movement. Low voices. Somewhere else in the hospital. Far away, then closer. Something broke. Then multiple sounds at once. The percussive, fast, specific sound of a serious fight inside a building. Glass. Furniture. A crash that moved through the walls like a wave. The voices outside the supply. Corridor stopped. Running footsteps. Fading. Zara counted to 60 before she moved. In the dark while they waited, Sua told her the truth. All of it. that she was not a random pedestrian, that she had spent 12 years managing the finances of 3 of Korea's most dangerous criminal organizations simultaneously, including Ji-hoon's, that she had been skimming from each for 5 years and hiding in Seoul for 7 months under a name that was not hers, that Oh Se-jun's people had found her, that the accident had been built. She was the instrument in a frame designed to collapse Ji-hoon through criminal conviction, not open war. Cleaner, deniable, and underneath all of it, that she had been building something. For 6 years, a complete financial record of everything every organization had done, every transaction, every account, every payment made and received. Built with one purpose, to hand it all to an international financial crimes unit and walk away. She had wanted everyone taken down. Cleanly, permanently. Oh had found out. He had decided it was more useful to weaponize her than silence her. Give the drive to Ji-hoon, Sua said in the dark. Her voice was steady despite the pain. Tell him I'm sorry for the parts that touch his organization, and tell him I'm giving him the choice I never gave myself. She paused. I know which one I hope he chooses. Zara held her hand in the dark corridor that smelled like cleaning fluid and rubber tubing and said nothing. She already knew what she hoped too. Oh Se-jun's message arrived that evening. Not a call. A message delivered through an intermediary chain, the old-fashioned way. One line. Lim's daughter. Alive, for now. The drive in exchange for the girl. Ji-hoon told Zara he was going to get her. I'm coming, Zara said. This isn't your fight. You said that in the parking garage. She picked up her bag. You were wrong then too. He looked at her for a long moment. Something moved behind his eyes, undefended, brief. If something happens to you, nothing will happen to me. I survived 37 years before I met you, and most of them were interesting. He did not stop her. The warehouse complex south of the Han River had been industrial once. Now it was the kind of place that suited people who needed space and didn't need anyone looking. They moved at 2 a.m. Ji-hoon went through the east entrance himself. His team was small and precise, which mattered more than size. He had been doing this kind of thing long enough for the mechanics to be instinctive. Too many people created noise. Noise created problems. Zara stayed at the vehicle. This had been the arrangement, and she had agreed to it without argument. What she'd said in the hospital was still accurate. She wasn't trained for what was about to happen inside that building. And being in the way would be worse than being useful. She was the one who knew what to do if someone came out needing medical attention. She was the one who would be there when they brought the girl out. The girl was 17. She was in a storage room at the back of the warehouse. A cot, a water bottle, a window blocked with cardboard. Still in the school blazer she'd been wearing the afternoon they took her 8 weeks ago. She was frightened and completely unharmed. When the door opened, she started crying immediately. Not frightened crying. The other kind. Ji-hoon brought her out himself. Lim was waiting in the car park. He saw his daughter come through the door and he made a sound that had no shape. Not a word. Not a name. Just the sound a human being makes when the thing they were most afraid of didn't happen. He crossed the distance in 4 steps and held her. Ji-hoon stood and watched. Zara stood beside him. She saw his face in that moment. The thing that moved across it. The thing he didn't know she was watching for and therefore didn't conceal. It wasn't mercy exactly. It was adjacent to mercy. It was what mercy looks like in a man who hasn't had much practice letting it show. She said nothing. After a long moment, Ji-hoon looked at Lim. You should have come to me, he said. Quietly. Without anger. I was afraid, Lim said, his face still in his daughter's hair. I know, Ji-hoon said. Go. They went. Back at the hospital. Sua checked in stable. The adrenaline coming down slowly, the way it always does. Not all at once, but like air leaving something gradually, and by the time they reached the corridor, the exhaustion had its full weight. Ji-hoon found her an hour later. She was sitting on the floor of a supply room, back against the wall, legs straight out, not crying, empty. The particular emptiness that follows a long run of high-stakes decisions when the decisions are finished and there's nothing left to mobilize. He came through the door. He looked at her. Then he sat down next to her, back against the same wall, legs out the same way. He didn't ask if she was all right. He didn't offer solutions. He didn't reach for his phone. He just sat down and was present in the way that people rarely are, not performing comfort, not waiting for something to do. Just staying. They sat in the quiet for a while. "I keep thinking about the parking garage," she said finally. "What would have happened if your man hadn't been there?" "He was there," Ji-hoon said. "But what if he was there?" Same words, same quiet. Not dismissing her, holding the thing steady. She looked at him. "You put him there before any of this started," she said. "Before you knew any of it." "Yes." "Why?" He looked at the wall across from them. The supply room smelled like antiseptic and cardboard. Through the door came the distant, constant sounds of a hospital being a hospital. "Because you stayed in the rain," he said. "For a stranger. With no reason to. No calculation. No gain." He was quiet for a moment. "I've been around people my whole life who calculate everything. Every kindness, every risk. Every moment of generosity has something underneath it." He paused. "You went to your knees in the rain on someone else's behalf, and it cost you nothing, and you wanted nothing. I didn't know what to do with that." She looked at him for a long time. "Ji-hoon," she said quietly. "Zara," he said back. Like her name was something he had been keeping carefully, holding it at a certain angle so it didn't get damaged. He turned toward her. She turned toward him. The space between them was small. He almost closed it. Almost. Ji-hoon released the financial records on a Tuesday morning. He sent them to 3 international financial crimes investigators simultaneously, people whose names had been in Sua's file, people who had been waiting for exactly this kind of documentation. They moved fast. Detective Kwon Tae-yang was arrested at his own precinct. Not quietly, not in private. On the main floor, by his own colleagues, in front of every officer who had ever straightened their posture when he walked in. He was walked out in handcuffs between 2 junior officers he had treated as furniture for 4 years. The charges against Zara were dropped within hours. Oh Sejun, with Kwon's arrest unraveling his political protection, was now exposed. Not finished. Not yet. But stripped of everything that had kept him untouchable. He came to Ji-hoon directly. They met in an empty restaurant. His men outside. Ji-hoon's men outside. Just the 2 of them at a table with nothing on it. Oh Sejun was 61. He had built his organization over 25 years with patient intelligence. His face was the face of a man who had learned to wait. Not anxiously, like a stone waits. Just by continuing to exist, while the world shapes itself around you. "Your organization killed my brother," he said. Ji-hoon was very still. "Park Jae-sung," Ji-hoon said. He said the name without having to look for it. "Your brother put a weapon to a 16-year-old boy's head. That boy was my cousin. He was coming home from school." The silence between them was total. And very cold. O's face did something complicated. A war of things. All happening at once, none of them winning. "You built 15 years, Ji-hoon said, "on a lie someone told you." O stood up. He crossed the distance between them with the speed of a man who had been saving a specific amount of energy for this specific moment. He reached for Ji-hoon, and Ji-hoon, who had been watching O's hands for 30 seconds, who had been in rooms with dangerous men since he was 19 years old, was already moving. It was brief. It ended with O's face against the table, one arm locked, Ji-hoon's hand at the back of his neck. "It's over," Ji-hoon said quietly. "Everything you built pointed here, and it was built on a mistake. Your brother made a choice. He pointed a weapon at a child. That is what happened. I am sorry for what you lost. I am not sorry for what was done. He stepped back. Oh, did not move for a long time. Then he sat down on the floor and stayed there. He looked like a man watching the last thing he'd been holding disappear. Ji-hoon straightened his jacket. He looked at Oh once more. Then he left. The financial records went where they were supposed to go, and in the cold language of spreadsheets and account numbers and transaction trails, some of it connected to Ji-hoon's organization. Not the worst of it, but enough. Clearly visible to anyone reading it professionally. Zara had known it would. She had given him the drive anyway, but knowing and seeing are different things. She had known a fire existed. Now she was in the room where the heat was real. She didn't make a scene. She didn't come to him with accusations. She just became quieter. More careful with the distance between them. More deliberate about where she stood when he entered a room. He noticed. Of course he noticed. He came to find her on a Thursday. Alone. He walked into the hospital and found her in the corridor and stood in front of her. You're afraid of what you saw, he said. I'm not afraid, I'm clear-eyed. There's a difference? Fear makes you run. Being clear-eyed means you see something exactly as it is, and you stay to decide what to do with it. She looked at him. I gave you that drive. I trusted you with it. And everything on it is real. I can't unknow it. No, he said. You can't. So what do I do with that? You do what you've always done, he said. You make a choice. Not because someone told you to, because it belongs to you. You're not going to tell me it's not as bad as it looks? No. It's exactly as bad as it looks. She looked at him. And you're not going to change. I'm already changing, he said. Slowly. Because someone gave me the option and I took it. But I won't describe myself as something I'm not to make it easier. For you. Something in his face was quiet and completely open. I don't think you'd respect that anyway. She almost smiled. No, I wouldn't. The corridor was empty. Someone walked past them without looking, turned the corner, was gone. I know, she said finally. And? He said. She looked at him, the man who had sat down in a waiting room because she told him to. The man who had put someone in a parking garage without asking and apologized by being right. The man who had sat down on a supply room floor because she needed someone to stay, and he was the one who stayed. And I'm still here, she said. 3 weeks later, the hospital garden. The first week of November. The flower beds were bare and honest. The small trees had let most of their leaves go. The sky above the courtyard was the pale gray of soul in autumn, steady and clear, the sky of a mind that has made itself up. Sua had been discharged 4 days ago. She was in a government safe house. She was cooperating with the International Financial Crimes Unit's team, working through meetings that she'd been told would likely take years. She had told Zara this with the equanimity of a woman who had spent 12 years keeping secrets and was entirely prepared for the work of undoing them to take at least half as long. Before she left, she had said, I hope you stop being sensible before you lose something worth keeping. Zara had not responded. She was sitting on the garden bench when Ji-hoon arrived. He came through the courtyard entrance and sat next to her and looked at the bare flower beds. Sua is going to testify, she said. I know. Some of it connects to your organization. I know. She looked at him. You're not going to stop it. No. A crow landed on the far wall, considered them, flew away. Why? She said. He was quiet for a moment, then. Because someone gave me a choice. Nobody had ever done that before. Every table I sat at, every room I walked into, people gave me options. Options are things you calculate. Choices are things you make because of who you are. He looked at her. You gave me a choice when you handed me that drive. I took it. I'm still taking it. She understood what he meant. She didn't say so. What happens now? she said. He turned and looked at her directly. The way he almost never looked at things he cared about, because looking directly at things was a way of showing what they meant to you. I have business in Busan next week, he said. Something lifted in her chest. Busan, she said. I know Busan. I know you do. He held her eyes. Come with me. She looked back at him. She thought about the waiting room, the way he had sat down without being given a reason, as if sitting down was his own sovereign decision. She thought about the parking garage, the supply room floor and the wall they had leaned against together at 3 a.m. She thought about the moment in a cold restaurant when a man, built 15 years of revenge, came at him and he walked away, leaving nothing unfinished. She thought about the way he said her name. You should know, she said, that I will argue with you constantly. I know. And I will never do anything simply because you tell me to. I know. And I speak Busan dialect better than half the people actually from Busan. He looked at her. Something in his expression opened. Not wide, not dramatically. Just enough. Like a room where someone has moved the curtain aside by one hand's width, and the light that comes through is precisely that much more real. I know, he said softly. He reached up. His hand came to the side of her face. Slow, deliberate, with the quality he brought to everything he chose to do. Complete commitment, no performance. His thumb rested against her jaw. His palm was warm against her skin. He kissed her. Not urgently. Not with the relief of something held back too long finally breaking through, with the same absolute certainty he brought to every decision. The certainty of a man who, when he moves towards something, has already understood why, already decided it is worth moving toward, and does not apologize for moving. She kissed him back. The garden was quiet around them. November light on bare earth, the city going on beyond the walls. Somewhere across the city, Sua was sitting in a government conference room, and sentence by sentence she was beginning to dismantle the architecture of 6 years of secrets. She was, privately and quietly, at peace. Somewhere Sergeant Lim was driving his daughter to school. His daughter was in the passenger seat talking about something ordinary. A friend, a class, something that happened. Not knowing and not needing to know what her father had built in the dark to bring them back to this. Somewhere Ji-hoon's organization was beginning, slowly and without announcement, to turn. The Korean Mafia boss remained exactly who he was. The nurse remained exactly who she was. In a hospital garden in November, they stayed. If this story found you, share it with one person who needs it tonight. Subscribe to the channel so the next story finds you first. And drop a comment telling me, what was the moment you knew?